In this episode of Restore It, I won't be restoring anything. Instead, I want to keep you in the loop in regards to the new workshop, give you a quick channel update, and address some of the questions I've seen in the comments. So with the Mercedes about to be out of the way and the opportunity to end the current workshop agreement early, I knew I had to take that opportunity and make a bit of a fresh start for Restore It. Now we all know the Mercedes was a big mistake, but it's definitely one that's helped make things a lot clearer for me in terms of knowing what I actually want to be doing. So the reason I took on such a large unit in the first place was because one, at the time, it was literally the only one available in the area that I wanted to be in. And because I moved back from Spain not long after they announced the quote-unquote lockdown, it was a bit of a mission dealing with everything during the height of that. So, not long after moving into this unit, I wanted to downsize for multiple reasons. The first being, I don't need all of this space. As you can see in the episodes, I'm only really using a quarter of the workshop to make content, and the rest is just full of stuff, gathering dust and helping me spread myself too thin, never fully focusing on one thing at a time like I used to. Which brings me on to the second reason. The more space I have, the more stuff it gets filled with, and usually with stuff I don't need or have time for. It also means a lot more walking back and forth for tools, parts and consumables, which are easy to lose in such a big space if you're not careful. And the final reason is that I no longer want to work on more than one car at a time, so space for 5, 6 or 10 cars just isn't needed. Before we get to the new unit, I want to quickly talk about the sponsor of this episode, Hero Wars, which is available to download on the Google Play and App Store and can also be played on the web version right now. Hero Wars is a free online fantasy RPG that challenges you to fun puzzles along the way. Great for a short break from work, when you're stuck on the train, or even when you're playing another AFK game. In Hero Wars, everyone can find a character to suit themselves. They have cyborgs, aliens, vampires, and even furries won't be disappointed. I've been playing for a couple of weeks now and I've only unlocked around a third of them. Up next on my list is Chubba, a tank who literally eats his enemies, but Celeste is the real S tier hero, as she can switch between dark form DPS and light form healer, which makes her useful in most situations. Hero Wars is a world of 6 unique modes with more than 300 Guild Wars servers and 100 million players. You can play alone, or you can see who among your friends is the top dog. And it's actually quite fun and very easy to start playing, but assembling a perfect team of heroes is an art in itself. For example, Mojo the Shaman can't heal Darkstar as efficiently as the good Grandma Martha can, and the Slow Cleaver makes a great pair with the Swift Isaac. And this year, Hero Wars is bringing the Christmas magic. From the 24th of December, you'll be able to unlock lots of presents that contain cool items, collect new heroes, decorate the Christmas tree, progress through the advent calendar, and learn all about the mysterious story. Oh, and if you're looking for a bit of a head start right away, you can get 30,000 coins, 600 emeralds, and 5 heroes by clicking the link at the top of the video description and start playing now. Big thanks to Hero Wars, let's get back to the update. So before we come to the new unit, I want to quickly take you back 4 years to when I first started Restore It. I was in a friend's garage using one small table, a homemade cardboard blasting cabinet, a small amount of tools I had started to collect, and it was enough. Obviously, once I started working on the E30 chassis itself, things got a bit tricky, but I still got by without a car lift and a proper workshop in my own amateur way. From there, I had the opportunity to move to Spain and into this workshop, the biggest space I had ever had, and it was at my house, which at first seemed like a great idea, but would end up not being the most ideal setup. A bad work-life balance would soon start bouncing from both ends of the spectrum, from periods of too much work to periods of not enough work, which is very easy in Spain with its relaxed vibes. The workshop was good, but not perfect. Plenty of space for the workbenches, parts washer, blasting cabinet and even a spray booth, but not high enough for a car lift. It was also located in a residential area, so making too much noise was out of the question, especially after normal working hours. These were the main reasons why the E30 chassis went to a garage/car restoration company 100 yards from where I lived. After 2 years of fun in the sun, but ultimately being held back by not being able to make noise when I needed to, not having the roof height for a lift, and other things like extreme heat in the summer, I chose to move back to the UK and into a unit on an industrial estate, which meant I could make as much noise as I like at all hours of the day and night, and finally be able to fit a car lift. This is where the story circles back around to before that slight history lesson. As I'm sure some of you will remember, this unit came with a car lift laying on the ground, and a spray booth fitted by a previous tenant. The two things that I needed, so it just seemed like fate that this workshop came up when it did, and to be fair, it's been a great experience renting a unit like this for 2 years. I now know exactly what I need to do the things that I now know I need to do. So this is where the new unit comes in. Clearly not big enough to fit all of the stuff I've collected at the old unit, but it's definitely a perfect size for what I want to do. If you guys remember Scott from the Mercedes restoration, this is his old unit and his old car lift. The guy is such a legend, he left it in here for me to use. And thankfully, this space is high enough for a car lift, definitely big enough to restore antiques, and easily 1 or 2 cars at a time. The lighting situation is already much better than the old unit, which had 2 very dirty roofs on it, and the 36 skylights would have cost a fair bit to replace. Not long after moving into this unit, I got the news that the 2 large skylights on this building are going to be replaced with new ones, which will really help out with filming during the day. Currently, there are 2 LED spotlights and some side lights, which were also installed by Scott, and are quite good, but nothing beats good old natural light. Another good thing about this unit is if I want to add more lights to increase the brightness at night, it shouldn't take too much to do it. The old workshop was so large and the roof so high, it wasn't as easy to light the place as I was hoping it would be. I'm currently eyeing up some of those hexagon LED panels that cover most of the room, as they seem really good at lighting a whole unit like this. As you can see, this place is currently a bit of a mess. Because the 2-year break in the rental agreement for the old workshop coincided with the end of the Mercedes restoration, it was probably the most unorganised and chaotic move I've ever experienced. Moving a house or workshop is stressful enough, let alone trying to finish a car restoration for a customer at the same time. I ended up moving out a month late and had to do so in a rush as the new tenants were moving in. I didn't have any help lined up through my own unorganisation, so I moved every single item apart from the cars on my own over about 5 days and 20 van trips. I have no idea how I got it done, but I did. This meant that most things were put into boxes and shoved into the new unit without much planning. After all, I still had the Mercedes to worry about and a deadline to meet. So the first thing I did was get the workbenches up against the wall and start sorting all of the tools and consumables that I actually need. A lot of unnecessary stuff is going to be removed from the workshop, leaving just the things I need for the job, and more space to do it. This was great for my self-diagnosed OCD. With the shelf up against these bricks that stick out, it fits perfectly next to this light, and with this workbench up against the other bricks that stick out, that just leaves enough space for these part bin holders with 4 bins each. Literally millimeters to play with, so satisfying. So I couldn't help myself but to start getting some of the part bins up, as I have so many of them to put up. One small bombshell I want to drop in this update is that after learning a lot from the Mercedes and the 325i Sport restorations, I need to focus on one car at a time, if I'm going to finish anything in good time. So I'm selling the Red Touring as a project just like I bought it, just a little bit less together. I want to fully focus on the 325i Sport. That's what most of you are here for, including myself. And now that the Mercedes is gone and I have the chassis back in the UK, I want to be able to fully focus all of my attention on it until it's done. Antiques are a different kettle of fish and can be done completely separately to the car stuff, but having 2 cars at a time just doesn't work for me. So as you can see, the Red Touring is taking up quite a bit of space. I think it would just sit here for a very long time before I get back around to it, and I'm sure there's someone else out there who would love to drop a proper engine in and give this car a new life. The other reasoning is that I already have a Touring, a 325i Touring that I'm going to fully restore once I've done something else after the 325i Sport. This is the car I drove to Spain, and I've had it ever since I started the channel, so I'm more attached to this one compared to this poor red one. So as sad as it is, the Red Touring must go. If anybody wants first dibs, it's a great chassis and a good example of a late model Touring, let me know via email or drop yours in the comments below. With all of these cars in here, it really is like that game Rush Hour, where you have to move all of the cars around one by one in order to get the red one out. I had to clear an area, then fill it with stuff, organise that stuff, and then make a new area to fill with stuff and organise. Now one thing you might have noticed about this workshop is that there's no spray booth. This is definitely the biggest issue I face moving into this unit. Spraying things is one of the most important and common things that I do. But thankfully I do have a plan. And don't worry, this time I'm not going to build some dodgy wooden thing. The plan is to get one of those open booths. The first time I saw one of these in person was at Rolling Rims, where they powder coated alloys with these cool waterfall style open booths. The second time I saw one was when I visited Cerakote UK. They have a very impressive open booth that uses fans and filters, and can be used just like a regular spray booth but without needing a whole room. I also now know that I won't be painting cars on the regular. And if I ever plan to, I'll go to a proper full-size spray booth and either do it myself or have a professional do it. I was thinking a good place for a walk-up spray booth would be up against this wall where the blasting cabinet and parts washer currently sit, close to the main door for good airflow, away from the cars at the back and out of the way of the car lift. But we'll have to see, as this is all still up in the air. Most of the things I'm doing now are temporary, to make space and give me somewhere to work in the short term. I plan to make a few more episodes on this workshop build, which will include the installation of said spray booth. I also want to upgrade the blasting cabinet to something a bit more industrial, get an oven for baking things, and hook up an air system for the whole room, among other things, so make sure you're subbed if you want to see that. Something I wanted to make sure I got done in this episode was the workbench lights. These really help lighten the room and are perfect for filming stuff on the worktops. The E30 parts at the back of the workshop are all a bit messed up at the moment, but I'm going to go through every single piece, sort them out and store them high on shelves on this wall. But there we go, that's all I had time for this week. I'm pretty pleased with the progress so far. It's gone from a literal storage unit to something that slightly resembles a workshop. Without all of the cars that don't need to be in here, not in here, there's plenty of room to do what I need to do. So join me next time when I might be restoring the first antique in this new workshop, or I'll have another workshop progress episode depending on how quickly I can source some of the bits I need and get them installed. Don't forget you can download Hero Wars and give it a try using my link down below. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.